Greetings, everybody, on the 11/11 portal date. So, I have a few things that I would like to share today. First is a little story that happened to me today. So, I was walking my dogs. I have three dogs on the moors, and one of them is a little cream coloured cockapoo, and she literally just sort of vanished in seconds. And I was walking up and down, calling her, and there was a couple that were walking sort of quite a way away with their own dogs, and they'd heard me doing that. And we carried on walking. I thought, usually, generally, she'll find me again. So we walked in the opposite direction, hoping that she would catch up with us, and she didn't. So we came back and we converged again with this couple at this point. And this man was looking for his coat. He'd tucked his coat under a rock somewhere or under a bush, and in the hope that on his way back through, he'd be able to find her. And he said, "Are you looking for a small cream dog? Because I saw her running up and down. I think she was looking for you." And I was like thinking, oh my goodness, where on earth is she? So I could see a little dog in the distance. I thought was mine. Anyway, the couple helped me to find the dog. I had tried to help them to find the coat. And between the two of us, eventually, I'd walked to the bottom of the hill again, down to the river, and the couple had walked up to the top of the hill. And what had happened is me and the dog had crossed each other. So as I was going down, she was going up. So the lady had found her and she'd carried her back down to me. And as I was walking down the hill, I was thinking, am I going to find her? And I just had this message come through. I had all that is hidden will be revealed, all that is lost will be found, and just to have faith. So as I saw her walking down holding my dog, I was really thankful finally that we'd found her. And then straight away afterwards, the man found his coat and it was hidden under a bush. And I just really didn't think he was going to find this coat. It's a massive moor and there's so many bushes. And I just really didn't have any faith that he was going to find it at all. But he did. So that seemed to be really relevant to today, because I've always considered that phrase to sort of only be applicable to all of the darkness will be sort of uncovered and to be seen by humanity, so that we can sort of then kind of in a way transmute it, because we've seen it, we've experienced it, and then we can release it and let it go. But what I've come to realize recently is that the darkness has been hiding the light. So there's been so many layers of darkness that it's actually hidden the light from view, that we haven't been able to see our own light in many situations, because we've got this layer upon layer upon layer of darkness. And that brings me forward to a session that I had myself, where I saw myself within a pod from which I released myself. And this pod was sort of I was being controlled by these dark beings within this pod. And what was happening was my soul, as the experiences of my soul were being recycled. So I've heard about this soul recycling before, which to me sounds like the most horrific, awful thing. And I never imagined that I would have experienced this myself. But as this soul, I had been sent back down through into Earth billions of times, apparently. And I'd had billions of dark experiences because I was being controlled by these beings. So within the session, we released me from that experience. And that was why sort of quite often when people connect to my energy, they've seen Lilith. And I don't believe that I actually carry that soul signature code anymore. I don't think that I am that dark Lilith. I think that was purely and simply that horrible dark cycle that I'd been trapped in, which wasn't my consent, and it wasn't within my control. So I feel like my own energy is now being sort of shown and being able to be seen and to be released. So that's one aspect. The other little story that I want to tell you is really, really beautiful. So it's my friend. Well, not friend, she was a client, but I just feel like I knew her. She felt like soul family. You know, when people find you and you think, oh my goodness, you're another one of my soul family. All these people that come to us, like we must have had so many lives together. So many people that I've met through being a practitioner and just sort of fellow practitioners mostly, but also clients that have come to me recently. They've just been soul family. It's been crazy. So this lady's session, I just want to share the gist of what happened. So she saw herself as a beautiful sort of Chinese woman. She had a lot of makeup on. Her hair was absolutely pristinely sort of done up into this sort of almost looked like a crown. She had jewels and she had loads of makeup on. She was very immaculately dressed. And she kind of looked like a geisha. So her story was separate from the experience that she had. So as she connected in, she was standing outside of a village and it was daytime. She was on the side of a hill. And what she saw coming towards her was this huge face of what looked like a lion. And it was massive. And we were trying to figure out what this was. And she was looking down to where the body was, and it didn't appear to have a body as such. She said it had a really long body, but it was almost like energy. It was an energetic body. And then the lion started moving up to source and then coming back down. And as it came down, she realized that the hill in front of her was actually a giant crater. So it almost looked like an extinct volcano. And around the edge of the volcano were all these people. And there were some that were like wealthy. There were obviously women had their hair up in these sort of old traditional style. And then there were some people who were farm workers. And all these people looked very still and very grey. And as this energy was coming up and down, she began to realize that it was actually a dragon. It was a golden dragon. And as we sort of found out more information, we realized it was a fire dragon, and it had the fire element within it. It was carrying this fire element. It was source fire that it was bringing to earth. And it was going up into the heavens and back down again. And she'd called on this dragon because humanity was stuck. They were in a terrible state. The people in this community, they were all grey, and it was almost like they'd lost their divinity. They'd lost the soul of who they were. They didn't have any colour left in them. And as this dragon, this fire source dragon, came down to earth and it was going back up, she saw the people around. They began to get their colour back. And it was like they remembered their divinity. Their human essence came back into them. And they sort of found who they were again. Their true selves were revealed. And this energy from the dragon was what was giving it to them. All these people that were watching the dragon coming up and down, they could see it and they were amazed. And apparently this was within this current cycle of Earth. So it wasn't that long ago. So if you think back to the time when there were geishas and that sort of culture within China, that's what it seems like to me. And what she was describing this dragon looked like, it was almost like it was sort of an energetic body that was sort of trailing behind it. It was really long. And if you imagine the Chinese dragons that you see when they have the festivals, it's like the large head and then the body's really long, and it's almost, it carries on and it swishes along, doesn't it? So this was the sort of body that she was describing. So to my mind, I was like, wow, that's fascinating, because what she saw in that time and space and what the people were seeing is something that is really a huge part of Chinese culture today. So they make these dragons and they have these festivals, don't they? I mean, I don't know much about the festivals that they have, but this dragon that she saw, this real energetic dragon that was actually transmuting all this negative energy out of these people, and it was bringing them back into who they are, sort of helping to remind them. It was almost like they were androids before. They were robotic in their movements. They were grey. They'd sort of lost all their joy, and they'd lost themselves. And this dragon gave them energy. It was source energy, and she was commanding this source dragon. She almost called it to her. It was like, it was part of her energy. I believe that it was her dragon. It was sort of part of who she is. Yeah, so I thought that was a beautiful story, because it just reminded me of the power of sort of calling on our teams and our guides and our dragons for help, because we all have a dragon aspect of us, which is really hard to understand, but we have all been a dragon at some time and at one time and place. And that dragon essence is connected to us. And like, some of us may have been water dragons, or some of us may have been fire dragons. I myself was also a fire dragon. And these dragons, you can call on them to sort of to cleanse you energetically and to sort of help you in your day-to-day life. So it's hard to sort of understand that that's something that's possible. But what she was saying was, within this session, she was saying that humanity is coming back to the point where they realize that you can work with these elements, you can work with this source fire. So it just seemed really important today on this 1111 portal, just to remember that we are more than meets the eye, and there's a lot that's been hidden within us that we might not even be aware of, but there's a lot more light now coming to the surface. That's what I feel, even though we've been through this really tricky time recently where a lot of negative energy has been coming up, and we've had a lot of negativity to deal with. As we're sort of feeling it and we're releasing it, we are sort of transmuting it, and we're doing that for ourselves and we're doing that for the collective. But the ultimate sort of end goal of all of that, I suppose, is that we will be more in touch with our own divinity, and we'll see more of the light within ourselves and within others. So yeah, just sending everyone so much love for this 1111 portal. I just wanted to share that story because I thought it was really beautiful, just to be reminded of the power of source fire and how it can cleanse and transmute negative energies, and sort of, and to give us energy ourselves. So our own activations will be taking place over this portal period, I feel, because even though it could be tricky for some, there is also an activation happening. That's the impression that I was getting today. For myself, I saw it as a blue diamond. So it's And it felt like sometimes it feels like an activation can happen all at one point in time. So I'll go somewhere and it'll be like the energy is drawn down at that point in time on that day. But this feels like an incremental sort of energy being called in, but the activation almost feels like it's happening in slow motion. So it feels like it's happening over this period because a lot of energy is coming in for us at the moment, and it is creating sort of change within us. I've been wanting to eat a lot of salt recently, and I just feel like that is sort of your body, as we turn crystalline in nature, we need that salt. Salt and crystals are one and the same, aren't they? So I just keep craving salt, and I'm just like sure that's all part of what we're going through at the moment. But it feels like as we're approaching the 19th of November, it feels like between now and then there's a big energetic shift happening for us, within us and around us. So I'm just sending everyone so much love. Try and keep centered and release anything that doesn't serve you. And yeah, just remember to call in your dragon for help if you need it. Okay, lots of love. Bye.